I'm going to call this video Sunrise Mountain Revisited. Now, we are looking down at the trailhead for Frenchman Mountain. And there's the beast. You take the same trailhead, but you don't go up Frenchman Mountain. This is, to many people, the familiar route up Frenchman Mountain. Beautiful adventure. But there is a less known mountain over in this direction across Lake Mead Boulevard from Frenchman Mountain. It's Sunrise Mountain. You can't see it from here. But what we're going to do is travel up and around, and we're going to find Sunrise Mountain. I've been here before, but it's been long enough, 4 years or so, that I'm going to have to rediscover the route. I'm not sure if you go up this way or straight up this way. We will find out soon. Anyway, the reason I call it Sunrise Mountain Revisited is that I was here about 4 years ago, after a week after a major surgery, and didn't make it up the mountain. There were a few rises that would require full body climbing, and I just wasn't able to do that. So turned around, came back. This time though, we're going to see if we get up to the summit of Sunrise Mountain. Cool thing about Sunrise Mountain is that it is more wild than Frenchman Mountain. Few people know that this exists, and there's a lot of geological activity to view that's right in your face. So we're going to see all of that, and here we go. Okay, first decision, and this is really important, whether to continue up this road and skirt the very edge of the hill ahead, or head around this side of the hill. And I remember doing one of them before and ending up at a pretty steep dead end. So I'm going to try this. Let's go ahead and continue up this gravel area and then just head between these two high points. I should have watched my earlier video. That would have clarified things, but now I seem to faintly remember that there was a little trail here that headed up between these two high points. So let's just go for it. Things are starting to look more familiar. Okay, first decision was correct. We are now on what you saw earlier. I'd call it the Sunrise Mountain Trail, though you won't see any trail markings, but definite trail leading up over this area, and give you a look around. There's back at the Frenchman Mountain Trailhead. Frenchman Mountain. And by the way, awesome view of part of the Las Vegas Strip down Lake Mead Boulevard. So yes, this is indeed the Sunrise Mountain Trail. So we'll continue on this, and it's all coming back to me now. Here we go. Here we are at the top of the first saddle, and yeah, it's very, very windy today, but let's see if you can hear what comes next. Okay, we're looking at the saddle, and this is not Sunrise Mountain. Sunrise Mountain is to the left and not visible yet. We'll see it in a bit. So you come over the saddle and then descend and wind around a gully and head toward Sunrise Mountain. I think there is the tip of Sunrise Mountain. And just get a better look at the saddle we're on. Very, very rugged and wild up here. Unlike the Frenchman Mountain Trail. Gully continues to descend, and now we get our first real view of Sunrise Mountain. There it is. Eastern side is pretty steep. Notice the angling of the slope. We'll talk more about that as we get higher on the mountain. But my memory now is we go down this gully, angle around to the left, cross a ridge line, and then right in this area, below this area here, is where we begin to ascend Sunrise Mountain. So it's important to know the basic route that you'll be taking. Okay, so, and just looking around again. I don't know how these mattresses get out in the middle of nowhere, but yeah, there is a mattress. Down the gully. Well, there are some cairns in this gully, and I wonder if these are set by people who went up Sunrise Mountain to the summit. We will find out. And here's another little cairn back here, hidden in the grass. It's important to note the saddle that you came through. So look back. If you have not turned around and looked back, on the way back, you're going to see a confusing assortment of potential canyons and gullies. And if you get the wrong one, you could be way off course. And if it's summer, you don't want to do this in the summer. Be up to 120 degrees down here. But yeah, if it's in the summer, you could be in a life-threatening situation. So just turn around often to see your route back. It is the second week in March and very chilly right now and windy. Okay, onward, and let's continue winding around this gully. Here's the gully that we are in, and you can see some Jurassic sandstone. So a lot of variety on this hike. And then here's looking up the gully through the opening that we took, and you can see the tip of Frenchman Mountain up there. Maybe you can see the antennas from the communications towers. So that's basically the gully we've taken. Continuing down the gully, and a full view of Sunrise Mountain. And the summit up there is a bit like the razor's edge. So we're going to see, we get up there, what it's like just to be standing straddling that razor's edge up there. Onward. Okay, as we approach the lower part of the gully here, question is what's next? And we need to get over this ridge. And it's either the right of the high point or the left of the high point. I think I'm going to try the right side of the high point. And I see a nice little gully leading upward. So yeah, let's go ahead and try this gully. So we just need to navigate around and get to the gully and then head on upward, which shouldn't be too hard. I think a right turn right over here should do it. And looking out over the landscape, wow, some amazing reference points here. Here you see the Mount Charleston Wilderness, Griffith Peak on the left, Charleston Peak on the right, and then over in this direction, yeah, there's the La Madre Mountains Wilderness, part of the La Madre Ridge line there you're looking at. And then over this direction, here's the Rainbow Mountains. And there you can see Mount Wilson, Rainbow Mountain, Bridge Mountain. So awesome views here. And in the foreground, the Las Vegas Valley. And then just continuing to look around. Yeah, here is the gully we just descended. We want to find that gully on the way back. We're not heading for this saddle. That's not the saddle we just passed through. But the gully winds up and around, and the saddle is going to be around this hill in the foreground, and between this and the next hill, this hill on the right and the more distant one on the left, that's where our saddle is going to be that will take us back down to the Frenchman Mountain Trailhead. So here we are. Let's go ahead, and I see an entrance to this little gully here. Let's navigate up the gully, use a combination of ridges and gullies, and get up to the top and see if we can get over and be looking at the approach to Sunrise Mountain. There's the lower entrance of that gully I descended. So we want to make a note of that because we're going to want to ascend that gully and then wind around between these two high points here on the way back. And here's that little gully we were looking at just a moment ago. It looks pretty rocky there. So what I'm going to do is head up over this ridge on the right side of the gully and then circle around and descend, hopefully, to the base of Sunrise Mountain. Let's see how that all works out. And then here's a little more of the view around us. Golden grasses here on these hills. And you can see another gully heading downward. And then in the distance, great view of the Las Vegas Strip. And here is the market center area. And then the mountains that we identified a little earlier in the distance, except that, yeah, here's Potosi Mountain, the very southern tip of the Spring Mountain Range, right over the strip. Okay, so let's continue on up, and we'll just see how this is going to help us circle around and descend to the base of Sunrise Mountain. We ascended this ridgeline, no complications whatsoever. And now we've got some choices. I could circle around that direction and then descend. We know we want to descend into this little canyon, and maybe we can just head down, but it looks like there could be some drop-offs below. So yeah, we could go up this direction, and I know there's a nice descent point there, or we could continue up in this direction and round or pass through this rocky area, and I know there's a descent point there. And yeah, we want to be down in this area and be watching for the right turn that will take us up a gully toward the summit of Sunrise Mountain. Let's check out this rocky area, see if we can cross over it, because that's more in the direction we want to be going. Okay, there's the place I was standing, and now from this perspective I can see that had I descended that gully, it looks like I could almost get all the way down to the canyon. Not entirely sure, but I'm going to head back there if, looking over the edge here around this corner, it looks too vertical. So let's check it out and find out. And by the way, if I can get over the edge, then it looks pretty gradual, and there's actually a road that will descend down into the canyon below, where we'll begin looking for that right turn up toward Sunrise Mountain summit. Okay, here we are on the rocks, and yeah, still not sure I can descend here. Looks pretty steep heading down. If I can get to that road down there, fantastic. This would be a great shortcut, but as you can see, we are very much surrounded by vertical drop-offs here, at least on this side. There's where I came up from just now. So yeah, at least at first this doesn't look too bad. Let's go ahead and try it and see if a way opens up. If not, I can always backtrack. There's where I was last standing, and I came around this side, and yeah, it does look like there's a descent point here that I can get down to that road below. So yeah, this looks like the ticket here. This is why it takes me like 3 or 4 times as long to make a route in the beginning, but so far this has been a very good route. I would follow this if I came back here. Okay, let's head down this slope. Well, that descent was really easy. I think I'll take this route on the way back too. From the upper rocky area, you can see where the way things are angled, there are a number of diagonal ramps that you can take downward. Everything's slanted, and so just navigate the ramps, come down to this point, and you are on that road we looked at a moment ago. So yeah, that's a great approach. And our next question is, okay, what's gonna take us upward toward Sunrise Mountain, and I'm thinking that this here is the approach gully. So we're gonna find out. Here we go. Now, at the base of the canyon here, yeah, I see two potential approach gullies. This is the one we've been looking at. I'm thinking that may not be the one. I see a lot of vertical above there, which makes this other approach gully potentially the gully that we want. So I'm going to go up the canyon a little ways, and then let's just test out this approach gully here. Okay, here's that approach gully. It's just one gully higher, and as I'm looking at this, I see a hopeful sign. There is a cairn. Let's head for the cairn and continue on up. And I think, yes, here it is. So I think this is a good approach canyon. And more evidence we're in the right gully.
Yeah.
Here is another cairn. And here's Elijah.
Hello.
So he's heading up Sunrise Mountain also. He'll probably be way ahead of me by the time we get up there. But either way, heading up the gully. Continuing up the gully. And yes, there are more cairns. Seem to indicate that we are on course. So continue to wind around this gully and just see where it takes us. Now there is a slope up in this direction. It's a nice gentle slope, but then it requires quite the traverse across this area to get back on course. And it could work, and it could actually be better than this gully, but let's stick to the gully. More cairns, and we're actually on a little trail here. So that is nice. And then looking down the gully, so you get an idea what we've been ascending. And then again, yeah, there is, get over the edge of this, and there's a nice slope that takes you upward. But we're going to stay in the gully. Just came up this rise. This, I think, is what stopped me last time after my surgery. There's another cairn. And then we continue upward. And I think, maybe I did get this far because I remember angling to the right and going up that slope. So we'll just see what's ahead here. Okay, seeing a lack of cairns in the gully, although it still looks like that could be a good approach up there. We're going to head up the slope here. This is the slope I remember from earlier, and it involves weaving through the ridge lines up above, the rocky ridges, and then topping that area and continuing on to the summit. And look how beautiful this is. Wow. Look at this. And this is a look down the gully. So yeah, I think I was on course when I chose last time to ascend this nice slope. But we'll find out. Now continuing up the slope, as you can see, rapid elevation gain here. And you see, wow, look at the strip. And then you can see Frenchman Mountain and the trail up to the summit between those two high points. A little saddle that trail passes through. And our target, our next target, is right up at the top of this area. And we'll see what lies beyond. We may or may not be on track according to the cairns, because there are no cairns on this slope. Wow, look at the view up here. Yeah, there's Nellis Air Force Base. It's a landing strip. There's the Mount Charleston Wilderness. Mummy Mountain on the right, Griffith Peak on the left. Then you go to the La Madre Mountains. And then over, continuing to the left, there are the Rainbow Mountains. And then all the way over to Potosi Mountain, southern end of the Spring Mountain Range. And in the foreground there, awesome shot of the strip. And this is the rise we've been negotiating here. Wow. Yeah. And then there's Frenchman Mountain and the trail heading upward between the two peaks there. Then looking around, you can see portions of Lake Mead. And in the distance, that pointy mountain, Mount Wilson in Arizona. Then along over to, there's Black Mesa. And then over in this direction, we've got the Mighty Mountains. Huge wilderness. A third the size of the state of Rhode Island. And now, yeah, it's up this loose rock slope to continue upward. And you see Elijah heading up the slope. So here we go. And that rocky area below, where I was just standing, was the extent of my journey a few years ago. Thus, this adventure, which I'm calling Sunrise Mountain Revisited. And yeah, continuing up this slope, interested to see what the world looks like over the edge of this once on top. Maybe we'll be at the summit, maybe we'll see that there's a much larger stretch before the summit. Let's find out. Okay, here we are at what we thought, we're hoping, was the summit. And you see the Las Vegas Valley, Charleston Range, or Spring Mountain Range, Charleston Wilderness. And here we've got some aircraft down on Nellis. There's Gas Peak. And then to the right is the Sheep Range. So those have come into view. Like I said, I was hoping we'd be at the summit, but wow, look what's ahead. Looks pretty wild. So yeah, we'll just play around, see if we can, how much further we can get. I hear there's a double summit. That is the south side, and then there's a saddle, and it's just like a razor's edge across that saddle to the northern summit. So I don't know, I want to go up there, but we're going to go down this valley and over this ridge just to see what the world looks like on the other side of the ridge. We're on a saddle now between where we were standing above over there and this sharp summit area, and I think this is the southern summit. Yeah, I want to go down a ways and then come around the other side and just see what the whole summit area looks like. It's so much more gradual on the west side over there. So yeah, and here's a little vantage point to spend the night. It's pretty nice. And then looking over in this direction, there's Lake Mead, Mount Wilson above in the background, and you can see Fortification Hill. And over this direction, Black Mesa. And then over in this direction, the Muddy Mountains. And there is the southern and northern Bowl of Fire area and Anniversary Ridge. And here again is this pretty sharp peak. It is possible to climb up this, but I'd like to see what things look like on the other side. So there you have it, Gas Peak over here. Okay, heading down this gully, circling around, and the west side of these slopes is so much more gradual, and let's hope that's what it looks like when we get around the corner. From here you can see the two summits, the northern summit on the left, southern summit on the right. There's a saddle between, and yeah, there are some options here. One is to just weave on up through these rocks. Another is to take a lower route, get into the gully below, and then go up between the two summits. I'm not sure what's going to be the route here. Big question. Some class 3 rock climbing above. Okay, here we are at the southern summit of Sunrise Mountain. Wow. See all of Nellis Air Force Base now. Gas Peak in the background. Wow, look at this. There's Muddy Mountains. And the Lake Mead area. In fact, an awesome view of Lake Mead. Yeah, nice. Oh, and there's Lava Butte. What do you know? Lava Butte. And yeah, as I mentioned before, there is Black Mesa on one side of Lake Mead, that dark flat area. And then you've got Lake Mead and then Mount Wilson in Arizona. on the opposite side. And then yes, Lava Butte. And behind is, I believe, the Railroad Mountains. Then over to Frenchman Mountain. There's a larger view of everything, and you can find adventures on Las Vegas area trails to all of these points I'm pointing out. And then here's Las Vegas and the Strip. You can see the Luxor pyramid shining in the sun there on the left. And then directly behind the Strip, Potosi Mountain. Over across the Rainbow Mountains. And then over to La Madre Mountains Wilderness. Awesome wilderness. And then the Mount Charleston Wilderness from Griffith Peak to on the left to Mummy Mountain on the right. And again, all of these have adventures to those summits. And then over again to Gas Peak. And then as you're looking at the layout up here, yeah, it looks like you could cross this area, but boy, it looks a little iffy. Now, the northern summit looks like it's higher. It's probably the true summit with the summit box. But this is actually an awesome summit in itself. Maybe the end of the awesome day today. And there you have it. Sunrise Mountain. Southern Summit. Okay, here we are back at the Trailhead. Frenchman Mountain in the background. And there's the parking area. And here's Ezekiel, who made it all the way up to the top and was leading me a good part of the way. So Ezekiel, what did you think of the hike?
Well, I feel like it was challenging and a lot of thinking because of the multiple paths. It was almost like a puzzle, and that made me enjoy it a lot.
And what was your best memory?
Honestly, just sitting at the top. It's just seeing not only the Vegas, like the valley, but also being able to see as far as Lake Mead and just ranges of mountains.
It was an awesome hike. Yeah, I've been up Frenchman Mountain a number of times. I got to say, even though Sunrise Mountain is not as high in elevation, it's a much wilder experience.
Yeah.
And Ezekiel is the only person I've ever met on Sunrise Mountain. So thanks for joining me, and it was fun hiking with you, Ezekiel.
It was fun hiking with you.